Omicron is the first new COVID variant of concern since Delta. No cases, as we heard, have been identified in the U.S. yet, but the CDC has surveillance systems in place and expects the variant to be identified quickly if it does emerge here. We do know it has spread elsewhere. For some answers about what we know so far and what we don't know about this new variant, I'm joined by Dr. Jonathan Cantor, an epidemiologist with the Penn Center for Epidemiology. Good morning. So, new coronavirus variants pop up all the time. Why are health officials so concerned about this particular one?
Yeah, this is one of those situations where, as you've been reporting so far, you are absolutely correct. There is a lot we don't know, and in many ways, what we don't know vastly eclipses what we do know. We know that the Omicron variant is concerning. We know it is concerning essentially because it has many mutations, which people had previously identified could be concerning mutations that will occur naturally. Remember, keep in mind, viruses are constantly mutating. That's just what happens naturally. What's going on here, though, is that we're seeing a constellation of mutations happening at the same time that are all affecting the spike protein, at least 30 mutations affecting the spike protein. We know that's how people get infected, and because of those changes that are occurring, the World Health Organization has already very, very quickly labeled it a variant of concern.
It does appear to be spreading so quickly. Why?
Well, it's hard to tell. One reason is, the spike protein itself is what sort of dictates the infectiousness of the virus, right? So it's what allows that virus to get into cells. If there are subtle changes in that protein, it may allow the virus to be much more efficient at infecting people, like we saw with Delta, where it may not take quite as many copies to get people infected, and or the virus may replicate more aggressively. So it's possible that the virus could make more copies of itself, thus making it more infectious. If you're making 50 copies of a virus, you might be able to infect some people. If you're making 50,000 copies of a virus, that might be that much more infectious.
You alluded to this, more questions than answers right now, and it may be several weeks before we get the answers we want. So what about the vaccines now available? Any concerns they may be less effective against the variant?
Everything we know right now suggests that the vaccines probably are effective, at least to some degree. Hopefully, they're highly effective. What we are seeing right now suggests that it is possible, again, just possible, that this variant could be slightly more efficient at evading prior immunity, whether that prior immunity is because you had COVID-19 before or whether that prior immunity is because you had a vaccine. Right now, we don't know. What we do know, though, is that having had a vaccine is in general going to, even if it doesn't stop you from getting COVID-19 entirely, it is going to make you more efficient at protecting yourself, thus making you less likely to get severe illness.
And we do know that the vaccine makers are working on trying to reorient the vaccines to fight it if they need to. So one thing we don't know yet is the impact on the severity or the seriousness when it comes to the risk of infection and hospitalization. That said, what research is being done to better understand the risks of Omicron?
Yeah, so, vaccine makers are already kind of going, full speed ahead. Remember, this was only identified really just less than a week ago, right? It was just labeled less than a week ago. But you've already got vaccine makers around the world trying to pivot and get ready, as they did with Delta, to try to be ahead of it. One thing they're looking at in a very simple level is to say, well, would an increased dose, for example, be more effective? So if you're taking Moderna, for example, would a full dose rather than a half dose of the booster be more effective? But another thing is the vaccine makers have pledged that probably in about 3 months' time, they could come out with specially tailored vaccines already for this variant. So the question is really going to be, is it necessary? If it is necessary, the good thing is we're well poised to react appropriately. But for right now, the best thing we can do is continue to practice good hygiene, good personal protection, and also to make sure that as many of us as possible get fully vaccinated, because that's what's really going to help to reduce the spread of the virus.
Dr. Jonathan Cantor, as always, I appreciate you, and I'm sure we'll be talking again in the near future. Have a great day.